Written by the iconic Nigerian author Chinua Achebe in 1958, Things Fall Apart tells the tragic tale of the Igbo warrior Okonkwo in a fictional pre-colonial Africa. The classic novel explores themes such as tradition, masculinity, trauma, colonization, gender, anger, superstition, and the death of culture, among others. Okonkwo is a respected and influential leader within his Igbo village of Umuofia, which is now eastern Nigeria. Okonkwo is obsessed with achievement and masculinity. He is pathologically determined to gain titles for himself and become powerful and wealthy as a way to deal with his painful childhood memories of his father's shortcomings as an Umuofian man. Unoka, Okonkwo's father, was a lazy, debt-ridden and wasteful drunk who often borrowed money and squandered it on palm wine and merrymaking with friends. Because of this, Okonkwo's mother and siblings often went hungry. Socially, in addition, Unoka was considered a village failure and a laughingstock until his shameful death. Perhaps the most scarring aspect of all of this for Okonkwo was how his father was often referred to as an Agbala or an Abala, which meant a weak man who has no titles, or to put it in more simple terms, an Agbala can be considered to be just a woman. As a result, Okonkwo tries to distance himself from his father's weaknesses as far as he can, and any characteristic that can be related to that which is culturally as seen as being a woman. Because of this, he grows up to be an extremely harsh and brutal man who represses all his emotions aside that emotion of his rage and anger, which he believes is manly. He harshly dominates his wives and children by being very impulsive, emotionally repressed, controlling, and violent. As a now renowned leader of his community, Okonkwo is given the responsibility of caring for a young boy named Ekimfuna, who is given to his village as a peace offering by the neighboring Baino to avoid war after a village dispute. Ekimfuna settles in well with Okonkwo's family. He befriends Okonkwo's son, Nwoye, and even Okonkwo himself becomes inwardly fond of the boy, although he still never shows it. However, after some years and the coming of the locust, the oracle of the village declares that Ekimfuna must be killed as part of a retribution. However, because of his close living relationship with the boy, Okonkwo is advised by the other village elders not to participate in the murder. Okonkwo too is reluctant to participate, but with his lingering childhood fears of being thought as weak like his father, he kills Ekimfuna himself anyway. But to many of the other Umuofians' dismay, especially his son's Nwoye, which causes the first major rift in their relationship. Later on, during a large funeral of a renowned leader, Obiefi Ezidu, who has recently died, Okonkwo's gun goes off and accidentally kills Ezidu's 16-year-old son. Because the accidental killing of a clansman is also considered a crime against the earth goddess, Okonkwo and his family have to be exiled from Umuofia for 7 years as a spiritual punishment and cleanse the village of Okonkwo's sin. Okonkwo reluctantly returns to his maternal village Mbanta, with his family feeling humiliated, but still stays regardless as he really has no choice. During Okonkwo's second year in exile, he receives a visit from his best friend Obierika, who informs him about the news about the village of Abame, who tells him about the first arrival of light-skinned missionaries in some other village. A white man also eventually arrives to Banta. He preaches to the people about Christianity. Okonkwo, upset, believes that the white man's culture and ways are ridiculous. However, in contrast to his son Nwoye, who is captivated and becomes one of the first converts of Christianity, As 7 years have now passed, Okonkwo's exile comes to an end, so his family return to Umuofia. When he returns to Umuofia, Okonkwo is heartbroken and outraged to discover that the village has transformed greatly during his absence. Many have renounced their Igbo titles and also converted to Christianity. The white men who now employ some natives of Umuofia have established their own government, court of law, and even built a prison where natives can be tried for breaking the white man's law. Okonkwo wonders why the Umuofians have not incited violence to get rid of the village of these white invaders. To add insult to injury, his son Woye has allowed his name to be converted to the Christian name Isaac while attending a teaching college. Okonkwo feels enraged and betrayed not only by his son, who he now calls important Ash, but the whole of Umuofia. Cultural tensions eventually reach their breaking point when Enoch, an overzealous Christian convert, unmasks an Egugu, which is a dreaded Igbo cultural taboo. In retaliation, the Egugu and some of the traditional leaders, including Okonkwo, burned Enoch's compound and then destroyed the Christian church. When the district commissioner returns to Umuofia, he learns about the destruction of the church and jails Okonkwo and the other involved tribal leaders. Later on, the man's bail is ultimately set after paying the fine. The next day, at a meeting for the clansmen, another tumultuous scene erupts. 5 court messengers who intend to stop the gathering approach the group. Angered again, Okonkwo jumps forward and beheads the man in charge of the messengers with his machete. But when none of the other tribesmen attempt to seize the other messengers before they escape, this becomes the moment where Okonkwo truly realizes that Umuofia and even Igbo culture in general has lost the cultural war to the European missionary settlers. As he acknowledges for the first time they will never go to war with them to protect their identity. Everything is falling apart for Okonkwo, which sadly leads him to commit suicide by hanging himself.
If you have an African novel you want to see Dudu summarize, do not hesitate to comment below. Don't forget to subscribe for more original great Afrocentric content like this. Thanks for watching Mimsy Dudu Summaries.